They say going home feels safe. Familiar, comforting, not for me, for me, going back to my dad's house at 31. Broke, single, and emotionally wrecked. Felt like surrender. My relationship had ended 3 weeks ago. My apartment lease was up, my savings were thin, so here I was back in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by faded posters and a dresser that still smelled like high school cologne. What I didn't expect was him. The shower was running when I got up that morning. I figured it was Dad. I walked into the kitchen to make coffee, shirtless, yawning, brain half asleep. Then I heard the bathroom door open behind me. I turned around and everything inside me went still. George, my dad's best friend, towels slung low on his hips, hair wet, drops of water rolling down his chest, slowly tracing over inked muscle and tight skin. Like they were in no rush. He paused when he saw me. "Oh," he said, voice low and calm, "didn't think you were up." Yet I couldn't speak. My mouth had gone completely dry. I just nodded. He was so different than I remembered. I hadn't seen him in maybe 6 years, not since my mid-20s. Back then he was always Uncle George, the older guy. The strong handshake and dad jokes. Now he looked nothing like an uncle. Now he looked like temptation, wearing a towel. He smirked as he walked into the kitchen, past me casually, like his entire chest wasn't on full display. "Coffee smells good," he said, grabbing a mug. "Still take it black." I blinked. "You remember that?" He turned, leaned against the counter, sipped slowly. His eyes didn't leave mine. "You think I forgot everything about you, Ethan?" That sentence shouldn't have made my stomach flip, but it did. I glanced away, trying to catch my breath. He chuckled. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I lied, but the truth was I wasn't fine at all, because my dad's best friend had just walked out of the shower looking like something straight out of every fantasy I tried to ignore, and now I couldn't stop staring at the way his towel clung to his hips. He moved past me, the air warm from his skin. I caught the scent of his aftershave, cedarwood, sharp, clean, and nearly groaned. This wasn't happening. I wasn't supposed to notice him. He was off limits, but something about the way his eyes lingered a second too long, the way his lips curled when I fumbled the coffee pot, the way he stood too close. It didn't feel off limits, it felt dangerous, deliberate, and when his fingers brushed mine as he handed me the sugar spoon, something lit up inside me that hadn't sparked in months. Desire. Real, raw, immediate. We sat at the table. He told me he was in town for a few weeks. His house was being renovated. Dad had offered him the guest room. Of course, fate would shove me under the same roof as this man. Right when I was at my most vulnerable. "I always liked this place," he said, looking around. "A lot of memories here." I nodded, sipping my coffee, trying to calm the storm behind my ribs. He watched me. "You've changed," he said. "Finally, good or bad?" His smile was slow, knowing both. The way he said it, deep, suggestive, made something ache me. He stood up, stretched, arms high above his head, his abs tensed. The towel slipped just enough to make me forget how to breathe. Then he winked. "See you around, Ethan." And just like That he walked away, leaving the scent of heat and the hum of something dangerous behind. My body knew what it wanted, and it was 6 ft of muscle, tattoos, and trouble, but I couldn't let that happen, could I? I tried to avoid him, I really did. I told myself it was just a moment, just a reaction to seeing a hot guy straight out of the shower. My dad's best friend, sure, but still just a man, a towel, a body, a scent, nothing more. I repeated that to myself over and over, but the next evening when I came downstairs for water and nothing but basketball shorts and a tank top, I found him again, this time shirtless in the living room, stretching on a yoga mat like it was the most natural thing in the world. He glanced up and smiled casually. Didn't mean to steal your spot. I stood frozen. It's fine. Matt squeaked under his palms as he leaned into a deep stretch, his back arching slightly, muscles rippling beneath his skin, the tattoos on his shoulder flexed with every movement. His joggers rode dangerously low, revealing that deep V cut that could make anyone forget their morals. I watched too long, way too long. When I finally looked up, he was already looking at me. He caught me, and he didn't blink, didn't smirk, didn't tease. He just held my gaze, slow, intense, director, like he was daring me to say what I was thinking, and my stomach twisted into knots. Join me, he asked suddenly, patting the mat beside him. My throat went dry. I haven't done yoga in years. Doesn't matter, you're still flexible, right? That line, it hit me like lightning, and I knew this wasn't just friendly teasing anymore. This was something else. I hesitated, but something in me, something reckless, said yes. I stepped onto the mat, sat beside him, tried to stretch. My arm brushed his, my knee touched his thigh. His body was warm, too warm. You always tense up when someone touches you, he asked quietly. I glanced at him. I don't know, depends who it is. He smiled, eyes locked on mine. Fair. Then without warning he reached out and adjusted my posture. His fingers brushed my spine, light, slow. His palm pressed gently to my lower back. Here, he murmured, you need to breathe into it. His hand stayed there, firm, assured, and I swear my whole body reacted like I'd been lit on fire. I looked up at him, barely breathing. He was already watching me. Our faces were close now, too close. I could feel his breath, smell the faint citrus on his skin, the masculine heat pouring off him in waves. Something in his eyes changed, like a flicker of restraint dying. Then his hand slid just a little lower, and I didn't stop him. I should go to bed, I whispered. His voice dropped. Should you? The way he said it, slow, deep, didn't ask for an answer. It offered a challenge. I stood up quickly, trying to play it off, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would crack my ribs. I made it to the stairs before he spoke again. Ethan, I stopped. His voice was calm but powerful, like he knew what he was doing. To me, I've seen the way you look at me, he said. Silence. He waited, let it hang in the air like a secret I hadn't admitted yet. I turned halfway, couldn't meet his eyes. I'm not saying it's a problem, he continued. I'm just saying I see it. My pulse was in my ears. I'll see you tomorrow, he said softly, and Then he picked up his towel, slung it over his shoulder, and walked past me. Like nothing had happened, but everything had, because that night I couldn't sleep, not with the image of his hand on my back, not with the memory of his eyes, dark and full of something unspoken, and definitely not with the realization that he wanted me to keep looking. I barely slept. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to calm the fire building in my chest. In my mind, I kept replaying his hand on my back, that voice, the way he said my name, George, my dad's best friend, and yet something in the way he looked at me told me he didn't see me as a kid anymore. He saw me as a man he might actually want. The next morning I came down to the kitchen, still in a daze, shirtless, hair a mess. The summer air was thick and my skin clung to my shorts. I wasn't even thinking clearly. I was just hopping. He wasn't there, but he was leaning casually against the counter, sipping coffee in nothing but gray sweatpants that didn't leave much to the imagination. He raised an eyebrow. Rough night. I blinked. Yeah, couldn't sleep. George gave a small knowing smile. Same. Then he glanced down very obviously and said, "You sleep like that?" I looked down at myself. My tank top was hanging off one shoulder and I wasn't wearing underwear. My face burned red. Didn't realize anyone was up, I muttered, turning toward the fridge. He didn't respond right away, just walked past me, slow and steady, brushing against my back again. That same touch, that same heat. Some things are hard to ignore, he said. Behind me, voice low. I froze. I didn't know if he meant my clothes or something else entirely. I turned slowly. He was standing way too close now. That look again, like he was reading my thoughts, like he already knew what I wanted and was waiting for me to admit it. But I didn't have to say a word, because then he said, "You've been looking at me like you want something, Ethan, but you haven't asked." My lips parted. I couldn't breathe. My whole body buzzed. "What if I do?" I whispered. George leaned in, his mouth dangerously close to mine. His eyes flicked down slowly, scanning my chest, my bare skin, the outline beneath my shorts. His voice dropped. "Then you better be sure, because I'm not the kind of man who holds back. Once you ask, I swear." My knees almost gave out. His words were heavy, dripping with tension, but also warning. Promise. Threat. My heart was hammering. "I've never done anything like this," I confessed, barely audible. George's gaze softened just slightly. "Then let me show you." The air between us pulsed like electricity. He reached up slowly and touched my throat with just 2 fingers, trailing down my neck like he was memorizing it. "You're tense," he said. "I wonder why," I muttered, trying to joke. But then he moved closer until our bodies were nearly touching, and I felt it, all of him. He was hard and big, much bigger than I expected, so close to me now. His voice was like a growl. "You're not going to be able to take it." All at once, my eyes widened. I couldn't believe he said that, but I couldn't deny how my body reacted. I wanted to say something smart back, wanted to pretend I wasn't affected, but instead, my voice came out quiet, hungry. "Try me." We didn't kiss, not yet, but something passed between us in that moment. Something unspoken, something raw, and when he finally stepped back just enough to let me breathe again, he didn't smirk or make some cocky comment. He just said, "Tonight my room door open. If you walk in, I'll take that as your answer," and then he left the kitchen. Like nothing happened, like he hadn't just broken every rule between us. But the heat between my legs, the hunger in my chest, I was already craving more. All day I told myself I wouldn't do it. I paced, I overthought, I distracted myself with chores that didn't matter. My dad had gone into town to meet some old friends, and the house was quieter than usual, which only made every thought louder. I kept hearing George's voice in my head. "Tonight my room door open. If you walk in, I'll take that as your answer." He was testing me, no, inviting me, and deep down I knew I had already decided hours ago. So just after 10 p.m., when the house was dark and the air was thick with the sound of summer cicadas, I stepped out of my room and walked barefoot down the hall. His door was open. The light inside was dim, warm, just a lamp on the nightstand. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, back toward me, shirtless. His broad shoulders glistened slightly from a fresh shower, and the low hum of jazz played softly from his phone. He didn't move, but he knew I was there. I swallowed. "George." He looked over his shoulder, then stood slow and deliberate, his eyes locked on mine as he walked to the door. Click, he closed it. Click, he locked it, and I swear the sound echoed down my spine. "You came," he said quietly. I nodded. "I don't know what I'm doing," I confessed. "That's okay," he replied, stepping closer. "You won't be doing the work tonight." I bit my bottom lip, nerves and heat tangling in my chest. He stepped behind me, not touching me yet, but close enough that I felt the heat of his breath on my neck. "You've been craving this," he said. I could tell the first day we met. I didn't know what it was back then, I admitted. George leaned in, his lips brushing against the shell of my ear. "It was hunger, real hunger, and you've waited long enough." He touched my waist, fingers swaying over my sides. Then he pulled me back slowly so my body pressed flush against his. That's when I felt him again, hard, thick, so big it almost scared me. My breath hitched. "I don't know if I can take it," I whispered. George's hand moved to my chest, his palm pressing over my racing heart. "You don't have to take all of it right away," he said, voice smooth and reassuring. "But I promise by the end of tonight you'll be begging for more." I turned to face him and saw the hunger in his eyes, not just lust but something deeper, protective, possessive. He leaned down and finally kissed me, and I swear the world stopped. His lips were firm, guiding mine. His hand cradled the back of my neck, pulling me deeper until I was melting into him. His tongue teased mine, slow and deliberate, like he had all the time in the world to learn me. I didn't realize how much I needed this, not just the touch, but the feeling of being wanted. He sat down on the bed, tugged me into his lap, straddling him, and whispered, "Let me learn every part of you slowly, deeply, until you're not just mine, but addicted." I shivered. Then he reached under my shirt, slid his hands up my stomach and chest, and whispered, "You're already trembling." and I haven't even given you half of me yet. He was teasing, but it was the kind of teasing that made me want to fall apart in his arms. I buried my face in his shoulder and exhaled a shaky breath. Jason, he grinned, brushing his lips along my jaw. Don't worry, I'll make sure you feel every inch of what you've been craving. Too much, too fast, and I wanted even more. George's rhythm was maddening. He wasn't fast, he was intentional. Deep, measured, slow enough to make me ache, hard enough to make my toes curl, and controlled enough to leave me trembling, begging for more. After every single thrust, my body was on fire. Every nerve felt like it had been wired to him, to every press of his hips, to every quiet breath against my skin, to every teasing growl in my ear. Say it, he whispered, his lips grazing my cheek. Tell me what you want. I could barely speak. My mouth was dry. My mind was hazy, but I managed. I want more, I gasped. Please don't stop, he grinned. You're addicted already, he murmured, slowing his movements just to torture me, and I've barely started. Then he hit that spot inside me again, the one that made my entire body jerk. I moaned. Loud, probably louder than I should have. I didn't even care anymore. You felt that? He asked. I nodded fast, gripping the sheets tighter. Yes, oh my God, do it again. So he did, and again, until I was moaning his name like it was the only word I knew. George, please, please. He grabbed my wrists and pinned them above my head, his chest pressing against mine, his hips rocking with more purpose now. You sound so pretty when you beg, he growled, voice dark, dominant, and you're taking me so well, better than I imagined. I looked up at him, dazed. You imagined this? His smirk deepened. For years. Then he leaned in, kissing me deeply like he was sealing a promise. I wanted you the first night I met you. But I waited until you were ready, until you were craving it like I do. That hit me harder than anything else. This wasn't just desire, this was something deeper, something possessive. And the way he kept moving, the way he stayed buried deep, grinding inside me, until I was shaking beneath him, made it very clear he wasn't just hooking up with me, he was claiming me. He pulled out for a moment, and I whined at the emptiness, but before I could say a word, he flipped me over onto my stomach, pulling my hips up gently. I want to feel you from every angle, he whispered, and I want you to feel just how deep I can go. When he slid back in, it was deeper than before. I gasped, nearly screamed. Jason, oh my God. He grabbed my waist, held me steady, and rocked into me with a rhythm that shook the bed. Every thrust stole my breath. Every time he hit that spot again, I cried out louder, toes curling against the sheets. I didn't even care anymore if my dad heard. Let him. This wasn't a mistake, this was meant to happen. Say it, George growled behind me. Say what? I gasped. Say you're mine. I hesitated. Not because I didn't feel it, but because it was terrifying how much I already did. But he didn't wait. He thrust again, hard, and I gasped, body trembling. Say it, he growled again, gripping my hips. Say it, Ethan, I'm yours. I moaned louder than I meant to. I'm yours, George, I'm yours. And once I said it, I meant it. we didn't stop. Not after the first time, not after the second. He made me beg for it again, and I did shamelessly. Desperately, because I didn't want anyone else. I wanted every inch of him. Again and again and again, his lips didn't leave me. George kissed me like a man who'd been waiting too long, like he wasn't just kissing my mouth, but my fears, my doubts, my hesitation. Every breath I took was his, every move he made I followed like my body already knew the rhythm, and when his hands slipped beneath my waistband, bold, sure, unshaking, I gasped. He paused. "You okay?" he whispered, his lips still ghosting mine. I nodded, dizzy. "I just can't believe this is happening." He smiled, not cocky but tender, and kissed the corner of my mouth. "It's happening, baby, and I'm not stopping unless you ask me to." My heart skipped a beat when he called me that, baby. No one ever had, not like that, not in a way that made me feel so his. He shifted, gently lowering me onto his bed. Mattress soft, the sheets warm from his body. I laid back, chest rising and falling too fast, too hard. George hovered above me, his eyes scanning every inch of my body like he was committing it to memory. Then he slowly pulled my shorts down and paused when he saw how hard I was. "You've been aching for this," he murmured. "I don't even know what I'm aching for anymore," I admitted, breathless. He smirked slightly. "You will." Then he slid his sweatpants off. I wasn't ready, not for what I saw, not for how big he was. Thick, heavy, veined. My eyes widened. My throat actually went dry. "George," he chuckled low and rough, "told you. You're not going to be able to take all of it at once." I swallowed hard. "I want to try." His eyes darkened with heat. Then he climbed between my legs, spreading them slowly, gently, like he was opening me to a new world. His hands slid down my thighs, steady and warm. "Breathe," he whispered, and I tried. I really did, but my lungs felt like they were burning. Then I felt the pressure. His hips pressed forward slowly, and I felt the first stretch of him, thick, deep, and completely overwhelming. It was too much, and yet I didn't want him to stop. My fingers clutched the sheets. My back arched slightly. I couldn't form words, just sounds. "SHH," he whispered. "I've got you." He kissed me, and with every inch he gave me, I felt like I was being split open and rebuilt at the same time. The pressure grew, the heat bloomed, and then with one slow push, he was buried inside me, so deep I forgot how to breathe. "There you go," he growled softly, taking all of me, every thick inch. I groaned, eyes fluttering shut, heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. He held still for a moment, letting me adjust. Then he rocked his hips slow, deep, and deliberate, and I swear I felt everything, the fullness, the stretch, the emotion, the rawness. He didn't just move inside me, he owned me. George leaned down, brushing sweat from my forehead. "You're doing so good," he murmured, taking more than most guys ever could on their first night. "I don't want you to stop," I whispered, and I meant it, even though I could barely breathe, even though I was trembling. I wanted more. He slid deeper, over and over, and every time it was like I discovered a new part of myself. I wasn't just falling for the way he touched me, I was falling for him. Sheets were tangled around our legs. George was lying beside me, breath steady now, his arm across my chest, his skin still hot and slick from everything we just done. I stared at the ceiling. My whole body buzzed, not just from what he'd done to me, but from what it meant. This wasn't just sex, it was surrender. I don't think I can ever go back to normal after this, I whispered voice. From all the begging I'd done, George let out a soft laugh beside me and leaned in to kiss my temple. You were never meant for normal, he said quietly, and neither was I. I turned to look at him, his eyes, those eyes. They didn't just want me, they needed me, but there was fear in mine. What happens now? I asked. With us? He paused before he could answer. The front door slammed. We both jolted. George looked at me. You said your dad was out of town. He was, I said quickly, sitting up and grabbing for my shorts. He wasn't supposed to be back until tomorrow. Then we heard it, footsteps. Heavy, fast, coming down the hallway. Panic hit me like a wave. George grabbed his pants, trying to move. Quickly, I was already yanking the sheets up around me when the bedroom door flew open, and there stood my father, frozen, staring. His eyes flicked from me to George to the mess of clothing scattered across the floor. His mouth opened, then closed. Dad, I started, standing up too fast, heart in my throat. You're sleeping with him? My father asked, voice low, cold, like something inside him had just cracked. My best friend. No one moved. Silence was brutal. George stepped forward. I didn't plan this, he said, calm but firm, but it's real, and I'm not going to lie to you. I care about your son deeply. My dad shook his head, still stunned. You're twice his age. I know, and you're supposed to be like an uncle to him. George stepped closer. That's not what I am, not anymore. My dad's eyes burned into me. Now is this what you want? He asked. You really want him? My chest heaved. I felt naked, not physically, but emotionally exposed, vulnerable. But I looked at George, strong, steady, standing there like he'd fight the world just to keep me, and I knew. Yes, I said, I want him, and he wants me, and it's not just some fling. It never was. My dad's jaw tightened. You're my son, and he's the first man who's ever made me feel seen. I interrupted. He didn't force anything. He waited. He respected me. He made me feel wanted, loved. My dad blinked. Loved. That word hit the room like a spark in gasoline. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He just looked at George and said, you better not hurt him. George nodded once, never, and just like that the tension broke. My father turned around and walked out. It would take time, but he didn't slam the door behind him. Later that night, after things settled, George and I sat on the porch together. The stars were bright above us. My head rested on his shoulder. His hand rested on my thigh. You changed me, I said softly. That night, that first time you touched me, I felt like I belonged to someone for the first time in my life. He turned to look at me, eyes filled with something deep. You don't just belong to me, he said, voice rough with emotion. You're a part of me now. I bit my lip. Even though I'm younger, even though people are going to stare. George smiled. Let them, I'll hold your hand anyway. I leaned in, then hold it forever, and he did. 1 year later, George and I moved in together just outside the city. My dad came around. It wasn't easy, but he saw how happy I was. We hosted dinner for the first time last month. My dad brought dessert. George grilled steak. I made the playlist. He held my hand the whole night, and when the guests left, he carried me to bed, just like that. First night, still too big, still making me crave more, still mine.